Snappy Pancakes here, and I'm welcoming you to my latest series in which I create a centerpiece for my current park, which is based on the Netherlands, called Neder Land Park. This centerpiece is a very old Gothic style building, Gothic style town hall like building that's sort of supposed to set the park centerpiece, something like, the equivalent of the Disney castle for my park. I wanted to position it so it's at the end of a sort of avenue and you can see it poke above all of the rooftops. It's quite a large building, and that was the idea behind it, that you could see it from more or less everywhere in the park. And to give it that sort of Dutch sort of flavor, I looked through many different designs of centerpieces, giant buildings, churches, train stations, all sorts of things throughout the Netherlands. And in the end I settled for this design, which is very heavily inspired on the town hall in Gouda. I think that's how it's said, I'm not entirely sure, but that's where the cheese comes from. You probably recognize that word from the cheese alone. So I thought that was more or less perfect. It was a really, really beautiful building. It has the Dutch row house vibe, but on a much grander scale. It's a giant building, a giant row house, so to speak. And I just loved the way it looked. It's a Gothic style. In fact, it's the oldest Gothic building in the Netherlands, and I thought it would really work well as a sort of castle equivalent, a sort of centerpiece equivalent. The building itself houses a roller coaster, which you don't see here at the moment, but I've done this behind the screen. I mean, the roller coaster doesn't go through the building at all. It just is just at the entrance. But I wanted to create this building to have some sort of function. The inside is also decorated, so you will be able to see all the stained glass windows on the inside as well as the outside, because people will be going inside the building, and that's very important. So it's an interactive building, it's a giant building. In fact, it's probably the largest building in my entire park, if you do not count the building that houses the Haunted House Dark Ride. So it's quite a large build. I've been building it for quite a while. I've 99% finished it. I just have to finish one window on the back side of the building. So that's something I haven't gotten around to yet because I wanted to move on to some other things. But I started this building quite a long time ago. But I wanted to keep it fresh because I felt like I was rushing it a little bit. This building is not an entirely carbon copy of the Gouda Town Hall, but it's very, very close and very heavily inspired. There are things that aren't quite possible to do. There are not enough statues, and that's one thing that I really wanted to get correct in these Gothic style buildings. They're very ornamental, and they have a huge amount of statues and gargoyles and engravings, stone chiseled art pieces, and that's why people, I think, really are drawn to them and why they are considered quite beautiful. They are so overly decorated, but it never takes away from the design. But I think that's, they're very beautiful, and that's one of the reasons I like Gothic designs. So it fits in with the castle theme, it fits in with the Dutch, theme. It will have the shape of a Dutch row house, like I mentioned before. And during this episode, you will mainly see the front part of the building being created. I mean, it's quite a long episode, a long series. I think there's probably going to be at least 5 parts to it. It's very, very large. I have also got to do some more of the area around it, and I'm working on the whole area around here that you can see. Building some more little row houses and things like that just to integrate it. I think the roller coaster in the very end looks pretty good from behind, but I have to work quite a lot on the roller coaster just to make it look like it's integrated into the park at the moment. The idea behind this park, which I've mentioned several times before, is that you won't really see all the rides at face value. I mean, they're all partly hidden, they're all partly covered by architecture or by landscaping, and I didn't want them to be so in your face, at least in the city part of my park, which is quite a large area. I think there will be one little area to the north which will be less architectural focused and more roller coaster and ride focused, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. At the moment, it's still very much a lot of detailing. I'm also a bit crazy in the sense that I now have decided that I want nearly every building in my park to be different. Every row house is going to be slightly different, and I might sound like a man for doing that, but I don't care, because I want it to be as realistic as it can be. Again, I can't go too much further with this park because there's only so many assets and buildings and pieces that will work before it starts to really grate on the processing power. So I'm trying to keep I'm gonna try to wrap it up soon, but I'm really enjoying making this park, and I don't want to make it too quickly because I don't want to rush it, and I'm really liking the way it's turning out. And what I've noticed is when I start to rush areas, I have to go back to them and completely change them. And a lot of people would probably think, like, why are you changing that? That doesn't make any sense. That looks fine. I can't really explain it other than the fact that I feel like it has to be perfect, and if it's not to my liking, then it's ruined. I think sometimes I have a habit of over-detailing things, and sometimes when I'm looking around my park, I really look at buildings and I notice that there are parts and details that I've put on that are really pointless because no one will notice them. So maybe at the very end of this park, when I look back and I go around and check everything is in the right place, I will delete a lot of useless detail and things like that, just to make it run as best as I can. I mean, it looks really good in the ultra setting, but it doesn't load, and I'm a bit worried about putting it into the ultra setting. All I do is do promo shots in ultra setting now, but that's the way things go sometimes. So as you can see, the main shape of the building is really starting to come about, and it was quite a difficult shape to make, but there are lots and lots of photographs and references online for this building. It's kind of a thing of pride and joy for the city of Gouda, and that's where the cheese market is. I mean, the way I built this building, I haven't built it around a courtyard or a giant open square. Around it, in front of it is the swing ride. I don't know what they're called, but the spinny ride, which is a swing, which I think look always a bit dangerous because, you know, it's just a little metal bar that keeps you in place. You're not really strapped in. I digress. But I thought it gave it a sort of marketplacey vibe, so I think that worked out pretty well. I've also been meaning to build in this area a sort of sculpture of cheese, like a giant, you know, baby bell shaped cheese, something like that. I'm still in the conceptual stages of that, but I really want to add some sort of little Dutch things into my park other than just architecture. I also have to get around to working out how to make bicycles. I don't know how that's going to be possible, but I definitely think that's something that I'm really screaming at myself is missing from this build, from this park, from this world, from this life. Oh god, it's really difficult talking all this bullshit. Well, I don't know. Is it bullshit? I don't know. I'm trying to keep it relevant. But sometimes I just feel like, pressure to talk. So what was I saying? Yes, I need some more details. I need some more things. I'm gonna be making some more canal boats and things like that. So it's a really, really big project. I think I'm focusing a bit too much on realism. I think it's going a bit too detailed in a sense. But I think you can never have too much detail in many, many ways. Phew, okay. So, what am I doing now in this build? At the moment, I seem to be finishing off the main shapes and adding more windows, and just, you know, you can see the basic shapes coming together. But what I remember by looking at this is that I didn't like the way those I don't know how to call it, those tower roofs looked. They were too big, or too small, but they just didn't look quite right. So I think I edited them down a bit. I'm not entirely sure when that happens, but the coolest thing about looking at the builds when I made this quite a long time ago, is that you look back and you can sort of see how they evolved and how, you know, you think, oh, that's the way I wanted to make this, but it went through three different changes before I ended up at the final product. And I like to see the trial and error. I think, you know, I can learn quite a lot from that, and I think it's fun to watch. That was one of the main reasons why I started making time lapses. It wasn't really to show on YouTube, it was just to see my development and if I could improve on that. and then I thought it would be a missed opportunity if I didn't put them online. So I did in the end, and the rest is history. And that was quite a digression. I will begin to talk about what I plan on making for the next area, one which I haven't really talked about much in detail at the moment, but considering it has to be in a sort of Dutch theme, something to do with the Netherlands, but it doesn't have to be completely to do with the Netherlands, I thought this area, which will be a bit more ride focused, will be more inspired by the art and the work of Escher. If you see on my main page, you will see a picture that's very heavily inspired by Escher, and Escher is probably one of my favorite artists to ever exist. Like, a lot of the pieces I see, they blow my mind, and I find it so difficult to recreate that artistically. Like, I'm very inspired in my artwork with Escher, and I have tried to emulate many aspects of his art in my artwork. A lot of them are very much inspired or built upon many of his ideas, but there are so many things that I find I struggle with in terms of how he creates things, and that would be a really fun challenge, I think, to translate into Planet Coaster. And in fact, I haven't actually quite seen that yet. I haven't seen anyone attempt to make something like Escher. I think there were a few dark ride-like things where people, they mess with, they make illusions and they mess with your sense of direction and perception and these kind of things, which is definitely easy to do. I mean, you can definitely make these sort of hypnotic-like shapes that make you feel like you're spinning or you're going upside down, or, you know, putting furniture on the ceiling, and, you know, these kind of things is very possible. But something I want to make is, I want to make a roller coaster that from the main angles that you're looking down, you know, if you're looking at the roller coaster from the ground and you're about to ride it, it has to look like staircases from Escher, these kind of things. Now, the main problem I have with this is that it's quite difficult to make what Escher does from multiple angles. So there's only one sort of angle that it would work at, all the rest would sort of just not work. You can't make a never-ending staircase, it's just impossible. The way he's done it is that it only works from that specific angle, and it's an illusion, and it messes with your head. But as soon as you change angles of the staircase, it wouldn't be in that shape at all, at least not in the way he's done it. So it's got to be some sort of inspiration to Escher in those things, the architectural things like his waterfall, you know, staircases, or the river, the waterfall canal that goes up and then falls down on itself. These things will be there. But some other things that I want to implement, mainly from his art, are things like how he integrates shapes within shapes. And so there's one of my favorite pieces he did was many different animals that are sort of joined together from their shape. And I used to draw this kind of stuff as a kid all the time. I love this kind of thing. So something like that. Some roller coasters and rides that have some inspiration to Escher. I have a really good book at home that I'm going to draw for inspiration, and I have some art jobs at the moment that are also inspired by Escher that need to be focused on. So I'm thinking that's what will be coming next. But if you have any ideas of what you would like to see me implement in my Dutch theme park, please don't hesitate to let me know that, because I really believe that, you know, I really would love people's input, and I know a lot of people from the Netherlands are watching, and I'm always asking myself, well, what do they think should be in the Netherlands park? Like, what couldn't a Netherlands park be without? So, I mean, other than like pickled herring and Gouda cheese, you know, I mean, of course I'm going to make some bicycles too, but there's got to be something from the Netherlands that I'm missing, and I think one of those things is also a flower garden, and I need to make some sort of flower-like garden area. It will be a bit more challenging just because there are only 3 or 4 flower-like plants that I can use that should work. Luckily 2 of them are recolorable, but the others are actually bushes, so you have to do a bit of clever placement with that, and maybe make some sort of weeping willow-like trees. But a flower garden is definitely in order, as well as Dutch fields. Like in Holland, they have really, really unique and beautiful field placements of flowers and tulips, and just long strips of rectangular. They look like they're defragmenting their scenery. It's really cool. So that's the sort of thing I want to go for with that. I mean, I've made some sort of Dutch villagey areas, but I haven't made something so much as like farms, something like that. And then I'm struggling to think of what else. You know, I'm trying to also not go with complete cliches too, because, you know, I'm sure a lot of Dutch people are rolling their eyes like, oh yeah, of course, red light district, haha, you know. So I don't want it to be entirely predictable. I want things that are special about Holland, but not what you would immediately think of. But when you look at them, you're like, oh yeah, that's Holland. So you go there and you see, oh, Sleepy Hollow. Oh, maybe that's Hollandy a bit, like an American colony from Holland, And then you go to Escher World, and it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's something very iconic from the Netherlands that, And I bet a lot of people probably don't even realize that Escher is Dutch. But I think people who like Escher know that. So, I think, maybe it's educational in a way that you can, you get to see a little bit of the Netherlands if you haven't been there or don't know much about it. Something like that. I don't know. I'm digressing quite a lot, but this is why I don't want my theme park, Neder Land Park, to end, because I'm just having so much fun with it. And I can't imagine, I'm going to be satisfied with how it is in the very end. I mean, like I said before, making every single row house different, I don't know how much I'm gonna vary on the designs, but just a little bit different, if you know what I mean. So it's gonna be a huge project, and I'm really worried about the way the frame rate's gonna struggle. I also rewrote my dark rides since they updated the sounds, which happened with the latest update, and it sounds a bit different now. There are some parts where the sounds are quite dulled, and I have to look into that and see if I can fix a bit of that, because of course, it was designed before the revamp. I'm just happy that they said they were using my Haunted House Dark Ride as a sort of reference for sound design. So I'm quite happy they did that, but I'm quite sad that it doesn't work. But it does mean that I'm probably able to make much better effects with the dark rides I make in the future, because they have more of a realistic sound quality to them. They get muffled behind walls, and they spread out from a direction that the speaker is facing. I can really tell that by now, because some of the speakers that I placed really behind walls and into corners to hide them, they're really much more muffled now. So they seem to have actually done quite a lot of work in that regard. So I'm not complaining. I think that's very cool, and that they did a lot of work on that. So yeah, I'm not too worried. I just have to do a little bit of tweaking for my dark ride, and I think if I was going to make another dark ride, it's going to be something completely different from the Haunted House. And then again, eventually I'm going to start working on making a recreation of the Haunted Mansion. I'm just still holding off a little bit. I'm just still waiting for some more animatronics to come, a spooky theme really maybe, and an actual Omni Mover. That's something I would stop playing this park right now. If they released an Omni Mover tomorrow, I would stop playing right now, and I would start making a new dark ride. I'll start making Haunted Mansion tomorrow, because that's something I really am looking forward to creating at some point. But that's all gonna happen in time. I mean, there's still so much to play around with at the moment. This game, I mean, it's not getting so boring so much, because I have set myself something to do, so I actually use quite a limited amounts of resources or items from the game, because I'm so used to using certain things for certain things that I don't need to use other things as much. And I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but this is what is going on. So it's only getting so boring in the fact that I'm having to recreate row houses, and that gets a bit tiresome after a while. But now I think I've got a formula down where I can actually make them much more efficiently and quickly, but then again, I'm running out of shapes to make, and so I'm looking through all sorts of cities on Google Maps and looking for shapes and how things are laid out, and it's coming along. I hope you guys will like what will be coming next. Soon I'm gonna have a live stream. I promised this for so long, but it's just become difficult. It's not so much difficult, it's just that I haven't really been in the greatest moods to be enthusiastic and to talk, and I think my viewers deserve to hear me when I'm in a good mood. No one wants to hear someone in a crappy mood, or in I'm so bored and I'm playing Planet Coaster. No, this is not what I want to be enthusiastic. I think there's this immense pressure when you're a YouTuber to stay enthusiastic, and if you know me in real life, you probably find that hilarious because I'm really not the most enthusiastic kind of person. At the same time, I'm trying to be myself here, but I don't want my personality to outstay its welcome, because I can be quite a cynical person, and I can be quite a bit jokey, but at the same time I want to, I don't know what I'm talking about now, really. It's almost at the 20-minute mark, so the video should be ending soon. And I've been, lately these videos take me a lot longer to make. I'm really forcing myself to record for the whole video, which can be quite challenging. A lot of people probably find that the easiest part. For me, that is really not the case. It means even with this recording, I stopped halfway through and I couldn't continue. I just couldn't think of things to talk about. So I waited a day and I came back, and now I can finish off this recording. I had some more ideas to talk about, and that's what it's really all about. But this series is probably going to be a challenge for me in terms of continuously talking throughout the episode. Not that that's a problem, but that's just the thing. I mean, the most horrifying thing sometimes is when I make these videos. Oh, that's it. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop talking there, and I will see you in part 2. And if you want to see more, you can click in one of these boxes, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.